What's up, fellas? Back at it again with another Tech Tuesday. Today we're going to be talking some guide coats, okay? Where's my guide coat? This stuff, guys, is a lifesaver, okay? You do not have to purchase this exact brand. I don't even know what the brand is, honestly, okay? All I'm telling you is this is what I buy. Not sponsored by these cats, but if you want to send me this stuff, I use it all the time and I love it. If there's a company out there that's got a better one, I'll use it. And I will support you for sending it to me. And I would appreciate it. But, on the other hand, this is what I've been using. I get it from my local paint shop. Or Amazon. It's cheaper. You just have to wait longer. There's two types of guide coats, guys, that I use depending on what I feel like sometimes, or depending on what I need it for. This is spray-on guide coat, okay? Spray-on guide coats stick really well. These guide coats are dry guide coats. It's got an applicator like a buffer. You tip that thing upside down, the black powder comes out onto this pad, and you wipe it on the panel, okay? I don't use this dry guide coat at all for wet sanding. If I'm going to wet sand something, or I really want to dial in a panel, you know, on a big scale, go with the wet one. Go with paint. It sprays on very, actually right here, look, it mists. A lot of guys out there, Tech Tuesday, a lot of guys out there just buy cheap spray paint and dollar cans or whatever. That's fine. But don't get gloss. Get a flat. Get mattes, okay? For the gloss clogs up your paper. And not only that, when you spray those specific types of paint, they don't spray like that. You have to hold them further and spray faster with another kind of paint. These cans, the tips are geared to spray like that. It just literally mists on there. In fact, let me just do some right here for you guys. Look, it's very light. Very light. You just missed it. Big deal. No big deal. Whatever you want to say it is. Dry guide coat, guys. This dry guide coat, I just actually wet sanded that. So let's just put some right here. Look. Guide coat, guys, is exactly what it's called. Guide coat. It is a lifesaver. I like using this on every time I sand the car. I use a block. And if you cannot get in a small spot, there is a right here. In a pinch, sometimes they work the best. A little paint stick. This is an actual pretty thick one. It's flat. I'll use it to sand stuff. Little areas, guys, like this guide coat. Maybe I just feel something weird and I don't want to spray it and wait for it to dry. Dry guide coat. Look at how simple it comes off. Always block it flat, guys. Just block it. That is the goal of bodywork, is to block your panel flat. Okay? And when you block it flat, you don't have to put pressure, you know, just minimal pressure to hold this to the panel, okay? There you go. So when you block this flat, basically what you're doing with all this guide coat is, when you're blocking this flat, you're just trying to take off that guide coat. That is it. That is it. Let me put you guys on this stand here. You know, like I said, I'm not a professional paint shop in any way, shape, or form if you watch my other tech tip video. But this is what I do. So this block was wet. So anyways, now we'll test it. Does this guide coat work with wet? It seems to, a little bit, but I wouldn't trust it. I would rather use the spray if you're going to wet sand. Let it dry and then sand it off. So here it is, look. If I had a dent here, guys, and I sanded this black guide coat off, whether it's wet or dry, I will have a black circle or a black indentation that does not sand flat with the rest of the panel. Okay, so let's see here. See right here, there is no black. So there is no dent. Guide coat, that's what I mean, guide coat right here. If I had a dent there, it would show. There's actually a little bit of dark spot there, and it's very light, so it could be a low spot. I'm gonna just keep on a little bit, and if it doesn't go away within a couple of these, passes, then I'm gonna consider the fact that that is a very, very low spot. There it is, it's gone. And I don't have to fill it. See how flat that panel is? There's no guide coat left. None. So there's no dent. This is a flat panel. Okay? There we go. When using guide coat, if you do have a dent, for instance, okay? Let me show you on this panel here that I've been working on. If you do have a dent, like so, that's what it's going to look like. When you sand it flat and you have all these low spots in your panel, it's going to stay like that. As you can tell, I kept sanding trying to get these dents to flatten out and get smaller, right? But then you start hitting other colors like the primer or even metal. You burn through. So at that point, that might be a high spot, that's a low spot. But use your hand, guys, you can feel it. All right, that's definitely a low spot. That primer spot, I don't feel anything there, so it's not a high spot. It's flat. Stop. These are dents. Pound them out from the backside if you can access it with a hammer and a dolly, or fill them, okay? Even though you hammer it out with a hammer and dolly and you feel that it's flat, you have two options. You can primer it and then block it flat and maybe you'll get lucky, or you can throw a light skim of glaze on it like this. That's what I did. I just skimmed it for a peace of mind. But, I mean, some people will skim the whole panel. I don't like to do that. So with what I'm getting at with this guide coat, these right here, you can't just skim over them, guys. Just because you sanded the panel and you think it's good to go, you cannot skim over guide coat, okay? It's not going to stick. Your Bondo will separate from the panel and you will get bubbles in your paint. And then you will get chips and cracks and all kinds of crap, and you're going to be pissed, okay? So listen to what I'm telling you. If you're going to skim this, like if I wasn't going to metal finish this by pounding it out because I couldn't access the panel, this is what I was going to do. This is what I would do to this panel if I could not access it, okay? There is so many low spots in here all the way down to here. This needs a little more sanding over here, but I would skim this from here to here. Skim past it. And it doesn't have to be thick. Just skim it over because you're going to sand it flat. And when you sand it flat and you get past the rough part of the beginning stages of the glaze or the Bondo, whatever you're going to use, sand it flat, guide coat it, guys. Guide coat it. Sand it flat again, and then you'll see what's left. If you got stuff poking through like this, it may be a high spot. Tap it down just a little bit with a little hammer. Tap it down, and then fill it again. Spray some more guide coat or dry guide coat. Sand it flat again. Repeat the process, guys. But before you even apply the glaze, the Bondo, the putty, whatever you use, make sure that you sand in these guide coated areas. So what I like to do, guys, sometimes you lose the panel when you sand it. You can't figure out where you remember where the dent is. So this is what I do. I use a pencil. Okay? Just use a pencil. Don't use a marker because it bleeds through paint. It'll bite you in the ass. Use a pencil. What I do is I will sand this entire area right here with like 80 grit and make sure that you get all of this guide coat out of there. And if I'm gonna apply some filler, I'm gonna put a section right there So now I'm going to sand within all that section, and now I know that all my dents are within this piece, okay? If you have one single dent, like right there, say that's a dent, say that's a dent, say it is, okay? It's not, but we'll say it is. Like this little guy right here, that's a dent. See how it's black? That's a little ding, okay? When you sand that off, you're going to lose it, okay? 2 ways to identify where you sanded. This is sanded right now in 220, the panel. If I use 80 grit, there's going to be thicker scratches right there. So that's where you'll know where you sanded. But what I do is I sand it real quick with the 80, real good. Make sure you got a good bite and good scratches for this stuff to stick to, okay? And then I circle. Okay? Before, when I go to fill this, then I know I can fill past this little circular mark here, or within it, whatever. Skim it, let it dry, block it flat. Once you block it flat, put some guide coat on it, block it again, make sure that's gone. Another part of tech tipping with filling for dents, put a glove on. They say that using a cotton glove works the best, but they have to be thin, okay? I don't use cotton gloves. I will just put a rubber glove on, and that usually helps. So compared to filling it with your dead hand flat or with your rubber glove, I feel that a rubber glove helps you identify the dent to your fingertips more. I don't know why, but that's what I've heard, and I've tried it and it works. So with that being said, guys, here's another part of tech tip. If you're gonna fill a panel, okay, if I'm gonna fill this roof here for dents, your hand needs to be flat. Don't use your fingertips. It's not gonna work, okay? Put your hand flat, and as you roll your hand across a panel, you will feel your fingers doing this. And if you can't figure out where the dent is, you're like a general area, okay, it's like right here, circle it. Circle that area. Dry guide coat it, wet guide coat it, whatever it is, get a flat block, block it flat, and within the first few strokes of blocking that guide coat, you will see where that indentation is. You'll be able to see it right away. If not, keep blocking it flat until you're able to, specifically see all this stuff on this panel is coming off. All the guide coat on this panel is coming off consistently, but there's a spot there that's showing very dark. That is a spot you want to keep your eye on as you're blocking that guide coat off that panel. Because that spot, if it's not going away, is what you got to look for. And that's where you need to know when to stop. When that panel is flat, if it is very light and you feel the dip and you don't have a lot of high build primer on it, even if you do have a lot of high build primer on it, I would leave it alone, 80 grit it, and skim it with something very thin like glaze, and then move on and spot prime, okay? We're going to get into that eventually, but that's the video for today. Tech tip, guide coats. I use them on everything, guys. You can use it on every single phase, every stage, from start to finish, okay? Guide coat is what's going to save you. This panel right now is ready for paint, okay? I'm using guide coat with 600 wet. Why? The reason for it, this panel was sanded in 220, 320, 400, okay? Well, why am I still using guide coat if I already fixed the dents? Well, the reason for it is every single grit of sandpaper gives you a scratch, okay? Well, the finer the scratch, the better the paint's gonna look. Okay, you don't want deep scratches. I've painted some cars in my past and there were scratches under the paint and you could see it. And why? Because I didn't go far enough with a thinner grit of sandpaper, and I put my trust in high build primer to fill it, and when we sanded it, I didn't see the scratches. Well, you know why? Because we didn't guide coat it. We just wet sanded it real quick thinking that we got it all, and we didn't. So, with that being said, guys, this is 600. I'm wet sanding this with 600 with guide coat. These panels are ready for paint. I'm not trying to find dents. Now, if I find a dent, okay. But when I'm sanding this, I'm sanding the guide coat off, because as you start to sand this, you're going to see scratch marks that this guide coat stays in. And when you sand it, you're going to be like, oh man, look at that deep scratch. So as you're sanding it, there you go, you know, you get the scratches out. And I'm just using this guide coat to make sure that I got all the scratches out on the paint. And everything is consistently sanded in 600 wet. Okay? So if you're in this process ready for paint and you're wet sanding and you see a gouge, like you had a little rock on your sandpaper and there's a big old scratch, it's kind of deep, and you're like, damn, you know, don't keep sanding that. Then you're gonna get a little dip in there, and then when you look down your panel, you're gonna, it's not a big old dent, but you're gonna see waves in the panel. You know, when these cars drive by and they look like they're waving at you, like the ocean. That's why. They weren't sanding flat. They didn't use a block. You want this thing razor straight, clean, smooth, one consistent panel, okay? That's why you need to learn how to use a block. Use a block, okay? But if you have a scratch and you want to address the scratch, but you don't want to sit there trying to get it out with your finger, which ain't going to work, don't do that. That scratch can simply be filled with the one part, okay? The one part right here, or glaze, a two part. This one, or a style glaze, a finishing putty, okay? One part, you don't have to mix anything in. Two parts, you mix it on a board with some of the blue stuff or whatever red color like Bondo. All I get is a razor blade, skim that little scratch out, let it dry completely, block it flat again with a very fine sandpaper until that piece, that scratch, you will see the color of your filler in the scratch filled, and when you can't fill it anymore, you're good to go. Don't paint over that. At that point, what I do, some people just spray a little bit of sealer there before they seal the entire thing. They spray sealer, they let it dry, they spray their panel with sealer, they let it cure, and then they paint it, okay? I don't like doing that. I've had bad luck and things show through. So what I do is I just spray a little bit of high build primer. I like to use high build primer to correct before I even get to sealers. I don't want anything coming through my paint that's gonna bite me in the ass, because I've done it, believe me, and it sucks. So if you're going to use high build primer, you don't have to use high build primer. You can use regular primer. As long as you're priming it with something and wet sanding it out before you spray your sealer on it. That's just what I do, okay? So even if you buy it in a can, spray a couple little coats of primer in the area, let it dry, spray another little coat, let it dry, and then wet sand that primer where you fix that spot with the same sandpaper that you're going to be sanding everything else with, okay? If this was all in 600 wet and I have to fix a spot, like right there, for instance, that is a chip. That is what I'm talking about right there, fellas. You know, this panel was good to go, and now all of a sudden there's a chip there. So look at this. Okay, you always use a block. This has a little block on it. So there it is. That's exactly what I was trying to get at. How am I going to fix that little dent, guys? Or it's not a dent. How am I going to fix that chip? There's not a dent there. There's a chip there. And what's funny, actually, is now that I wet sanded it or blocked it flat, it feather edged and I don't feel it, but it doesn't mean that it's gone. The only way you're going to be able to figure out if that's gone is when you put some primer on it. I don't feel it, and I don't feel a low spot. So what I would do to address that right there, without putting any putty on it, I don't feel it anymore. I'm going to just spot prime that. Like I said, get you a can of little primer, put a little bit of primer on there, let it cure, put a little coat again, let it cure, get your block again, and sand it flat again. And if it all comes off and it's flat and good to go, your panel is now ready for sealer. That's it. It's not that hard, guys. You use the same process over and over, okay? That's what I'm going to say with this little video with using guide coats, okay? Tech tip, guide coats. That's what I do. That's how I do it. If you guys have any questions or anything else, let me know. I'm going to plan on doing another tech tip video on blocks, okay? How I use blocks, what style of blocks I use. There's many types of blocks out there. There's many types of blocks I wish I had. Big kid blocks, linear blocks, they're all very expensive blocks, but they are nice blocks, and I would love to have a set of them. I just can't afford it, you know. When I go to buy, I gotta buy things for this car, I gotta buy things for over here, so I use what I have. But one day, when I get some extra money, I would love to just buy a nice set of linear blocks. They come in all kinds of different shapes, sizes. Some of them are more straight, you know. We'll get into the blocks, guys, but this is the video for Tech Tip Tuesday. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. If you have any questions, hit me up. If I don't respond, hit me up again, because sometimes it doesn't notify me when I get messages. I don't know why. But I will continue to keep looking to see if you have any questions or whatever. Once again, I'm not a professional shop. I'm a DIY. I learn as I go. I do this, and this is what I've learned. This is how I do things. If this helps you out, cool, give me a thumbs up. Make sure you guys hit the like and subscribe button. This channel, to like and subscribe to it, is free, guys. So I appreciate the followers. I appreciate if anything out there I can help you with, let me know. I'm available, fellas. You know, ladies and gentlemen, whatever you identify as nowadays, I don't give a shit. I will help you out. I will teach you what I know. Let me know. Hit me up. Caskets Fab Shop in the house. Casket Customs up in my house. And that's it for this video. Peace.